in this video, I am going to be making a tier list for all of the different weapons in Spectre Divide, starting off with the M17 Bouncer and the M25 Hornet. So, the problem with shotguns in this game is that they're not very good. Unless someone's really close to you, it's probably just going to be better to use literally any other weapon. There is a very small advantage to shotguns that I will mention, which is if you're hip firing, the pellet spread is going to be the same as if you don't hip fire, and this also allows you to like jump and move around while you're shooting, which can be kind of useful. You know, if you're peeking around a corner, if you maybe want to jump while doing it so that you don't get insta headshot, maybe that's going to be a little bit beneficial to you, but for the most part, you don't really want to be using a shotgun. If you're using a shotgun, that fight's probably just not going to go well for you, because even though SMGs are also better up close because of their damage fall off and all of that stuff, they can still hit someone that's far away and they can still do pretty nasty damage, whereas a shotgun can't really. But even if they could, having a pump action shotgun is not going to be ideal if someone's really far away, because you're just going to get absolutely sprayed by, you know, a full auto LMG, for example, that the opponent is probably going to be using. So, for this first class, for this, this first weapon class, I suppose, the M17 Bouncer and the M25 Hornet, I am just going to put this into, I think, C tier. And that's just because of the use of the shotgun. I think shotguns really aren't going to be that good at all. Next up is the Duster RX6 and the M25 Hornet. So this is not the right thing. This is the Duster RX6, and I guess my other class has the M25 Hornet. Okay, so Duster is a pretty decent weapon. I think headshots do a lot of damage. I can actually just check here. That's one of the cool things about this game. Yeah, so headshots is just going to be an insta-kill, I'm pretty sure. Even if you have armor? Yeah, I think even if you have full armor, you're going to get insta-headshot by this. Unless you're at a really long range. But this is a pretty solid weapon. It packs a real punch, and if you can aim your shots with it, it's going to do a lot of damage. And also, the nice thing about it being a pistol is that, you know, if you're using an ability where you're allowed to hold a secondary weapon, for example, the Adrenaline, you can still hold this weapon while using that, and you can still do loads and loads of damage while you're healing yourself. So this is a pretty solid weapon. And as for the M25 Hornet, the recoil pattern isn't really that complicated, but then again, none of the weapons in this game have a super complicated recoil pattern. You just go straight down, really. I'll change this firing section here. If you just aim straight down, you know, it's going to go pretty much where you want it to. Now, it does have some damage fall off, right? The M25 Hornet is what I want to look at. So, it does have a little bit of damage fall off on it, and you are going to have to hit someone a couple of times to eliminate them, especially if you're only getting body shots. And that is a tier 1 weapon. So, like, obviously it's not a fantastic class, but it is fairly decent. You know, if in, like, the second round you want to buy yourself some armor and buy yourself some abilities, and you just want to go with this because it's cheap and that's probably one of the things that you can afford, this is going to be very solid. And this pistol, this revolver, is very powerful if you can aim it well. If you can, like, get headshots, this is going to be a very good gun to do it with because it's super powerful. So, I think that because this class is, like, pretty solid while also being fairly cheap, it's in between, I guess I can just check here, it's 1,000. And that's pretty good. 1,000 for two weapons that are definitely viable, I think is pretty good. So for that reason, I'm going to put it into... Well, I don't know if I'm going to put it into B. You have to keep in mind that I'm doing this based off of, like, the price in each kind of tier, right? So obviously, I could just put everything in tier 5 in S tier, and everything in tier 4 in, like, A tier, and so on. But that's not really how I'm doing this. I'm kind of doing this, like, can you win a fight with this if the opponents have better stuff? And the answer for this class is yes, you absolutely can. You just headshot someone once, and you just hit them a couple of times with the Hornet, and they're probably going to die, and you're also going to have access to your abilities because this is a cheap class. So I think it's going to be pretty solid. Then we have the Harp and the M25 Hornet. The Harp is a lightweight semi-auto sniper rifle that does 200 damage if you hit someone in the head, and 100 damage if you hit someone in the body. So if they're not wearing armor, this can just one-shot someone. I have the wrong class. This can just one-shot someone if they don't have armor. If they do have armor, you're gonna have to hit a headshot. But it's pretty good. It's a pretty good class. The annoying thing about snipers is that they're not super accurate while you're moving. They're actually very inaccurate while you're moving. So you do have to stay still, which I find to be really annoying. So, you know, if you're defending, maybe this is going to be better because you don't really have to try push into positions. You just like peek a corner and then shoot when they come around it. So for defending, I think this is going to be good, but for attacking, I definitely don't think this is going to be a fantastic weapon. The fire rate is also pretty rough, so, you know, if you're not absolutely amazing and you miss your first couple of shots, it's going to be pretty rough for you, and you're probably just going to die. And also, MT5 Hornet is just the same again, just a very decent SMG. So, unless you're a really, really, really good player, having the semi-auto sniper that can one-shot someone is actually worse than having the Duster RX6, which can one-shot someone, because that has a much, much, much faster fire rate, right? So I would actually prefer having that than I would having the sniper. And I think it's actually better as well, just because it's always accurate. Like, it's always going to go exactly where you aim it, but with the sniper, you have to not be moving to make sure the bullet goes where you want to go, which can definitely hinder you a lot in a game. So just because you have to move, you have to not move, rather, while you're using the sniper, I think I'm going to put this particular class into C. I'm going to put it ahead of the shotgun class, but I think I'm going to put this into C. I think maybe I'll, you know, change these around later. Maybe I'll change them around later, but for now, I think this is okay. By the way, S is going to be, like, absolutely incredible, A is very good, B is good, and C is just, like, okay. C isn't going to be, like, the absolutely awful tier or anything. C is just, like, it's an okay weapon that can do its job, but B is going to be for weapons that are maybe, like, easier to use or more versatile and stuff like that. So that's exactly why the sniper and the shotgun are in C, because, you know, they're not so versatile, while this class right here is in B. Obviously, all of these are cheap, so it's actually pretty okay to go for these if you want some of your abilities, which I like doing, because there's really not they're really not a whole lot worse than some of the classes in some of the weapons in the next few classes. So then we have the Harp as well as the Buzzsaw RT40. So the Harp we've obviously just talked about, but how's the Buzzsaw? Well, the Buzzsaw is pretty solid. It's a pretty solid SMG. It does decent amounts of damage, has a decent mag size, fast reload speed. All in all, it's a pretty solid weapon. And this is the cheapest part. This is like the cheapest weapon for tier 2, weapon kit for tier 2. But again, the sniper really just isn't that fantastic. Because again, you have to be standing still, and you have to hope that they're not wearing body armor so that you can one-shot them to the body. Unless you're absolutely incredible and you can consistently hit headshots, I would just stay away from this weapon. I think you're going to be better off going for something else, because it's not that versatile, and you have to know how to use it, and you have to be able to get those headshots, which just makes it pretty difficult to use. So once again, I'm going to put the class that is utilizing the sniper into C tier, once again, because it's just not that versatile, and it is going to be beneficial to have on the defending team as well, rather than on the attacking team. Next up, we have the Trident and the Buzzsaw. And the Trident is actually a pretty solid weapon. 116 headshot, 33 body, and 30 to the legs. So the nice thing about this is if you don't have fantastic aim, but you can hit someone in the body, sometimes the recoil on this thing will kind of kick the gun into a headshot for you. And if you hit the first few body shots as well as a headshot, the opponent's just going to die. So this is a pretty nice gun. There's really not a whole lot of recoil. Obviously, it is a semi-auto weapon, though, so you have to be able to spam the bullets as quickly as you can, while also aiming exactly where you want to. And for some people, myself included, it's pretty hard to aim semi-auto weapons efficiently. It's hard to multitask and be clicking your mouse as fast as possible, and also be keeping it, you know, where you want it to be at the same time. But if you can do all of that, this is definitely going to be a solid weapon. It's like a very, very, very decent weapon. I find myself using it a lot. It's also pretty cheap, so it's good to use if you want your abilities and stuff. However, it is hard to use. And just for the sole reason of it being hard to use, it's not going to be useful for everyone. It's not going to be useful in every single game. Sometimes you just want something that's full auto. I think in most situations you want something that's full auto. So for that reason and that reason alone, I think I am going to put this into C. It's just a little bit harder to use than, you know, something that's full auto, really. So I'm going to put it first in C, because I do think it's much, much easier to use and much better than, like, for most people, than the snipers or the shotgun in most instances. But I'm just going to put it into C. Then, also with the Buzzsaw, we have Whisper. Now, this is 2 SMG classes, and the Whisper does have a little bit of kick to it, and I don't think it's a fantastic weapon. So it's got a pretty you know, its recoil pattern isn't easy, is what I'll say about it. And its damage isn't fantastic either. 78, 28, 25, and then it does have some what's it called? Damage drop off as well. It does actually do more damage than the buzzsaw, so at like mid to long range, like if someone's there, it's still gonna do a very, 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 very decent job. And if someone's close, obviously it's an SMG, so it's gonna be very, very powerful. So this is just like a very solid class. You get 2 full auto guns for fairly cheap, and this is definitely going to free up the rest of your cash to buy, you know, some armor and also most of your abilities. So for that reason, this weapon here, the Whisper and the Buzzsaw RT40, is going to go into B tier because you get 2 full auto weapons and they're both fairly cheap. It's I think it's 1,700 that it costs. Yeah, it costs 1,700 to buy, which is very, very, very solid. So next up we have the Cyclone with the M18 Jumper, the M49 Fury, or the Tempest. Again, this is a shotgun. So the Cyclone itself is very, very, very good weapon. I like this weapon a lot. Recoil pattern is basically straight up for the first few shots. It does go a little bit different towards the end, but normally the fight's going to be decided within the first couple of shots, and you just have to drag the mouse straight down, really. Nice mag size, nice fast reload, and I just like the design of the weapon as well. I think the sight on it is pretty cool, the way it kind of slants back like that. So this is definitely one of the best weapons in the game. It's very, 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 very solid is what I'll say about it. However, we're pairing this with the M18 Jumper, which is a full auto shotgun that overheats. So you can only shoot it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a row before it overheats. And if it's overheating, there's a second where you can't shoot. So even though it's a full auto gun, it kind of has a mechanic that's going against it, and that's like trying to make it so that you don't use it full auto. It also has a bunch of visual recoil, and again, it's a shotgun, which just isn't really that good in this game. So I don't think that this is going to be very good. I think everything else here is going to be better, and the shotgun is just really, really not that useful in most situations. Obviously, if someone's at close range, it can be good, but in most situations, it's just not going to be that good. And for that reason, because it's not going to be versatile, we have yet another C-tier weapon. I'm going to put this in front of the other shotgun because I think it's going to be better, but still behind the sniper and the burst AR. Then we have the Cyclone and the M9 Fury. This is the class that I find myself using the most. If you use the quick section instead of using the primary section where you can see everything, if you just normally use the quick section, the M49 Fury and the Cyclone is probably what you've been using the most. It's just the LMG and then the regular old Cyclone. But again, this is just 2 full auto weapons that don't really have much recoil on them, nice mag sizes, nice reload speed, and they're just very, very, very easy to use. You point and shoot, and that's it. And they both do have the zoom as well, if you're a fan of that, so both of them can zoom in and zoom out as you so desire. So just having 2 full auto weapons for only, how much is it? Only 2,400 really is pretty good. And I think in most cases you can generally afford this and have like all of your abilities and probably some type of armor as well. Like if you win 2 games in a row, you could probably afford this and like all of your abilities. And it's just like the very best middle ground for this game. Like from the top tier to the bottom tier, it's going to be the best middle ground, which is why it's in the middle. That's why it's in tier 3. I don't think there's... I just think that this is very, very good. I really like having 2 full auto weapons. And again, they both go exactly where you're shooting. There's no kind of weird mechanics. They're always going to be good at any range. They're just very, very, very versatile, is what I'm trying to say. And for that reason, we're going to have our first A-tier weapon. They're fairly cheap, very versatile, 2 full auto weapons. They both have the zoom functionality. And because they're cheap, it's also going to allow you to buy your, you know, your abilities and your armor as well. So I think that this class is, this weapon kit here is very, very, very good. Then we have the semi-auto AR, the Tempest, and the Cyclone. This does do pretty good damage if you hit someone in the head, but it does also have a good bit of damage fall off. So if you hit someone in the head at kind of close to mid-range, it will one-shot, and at longer ranges it won't one-shot if they have body armor, I believe. So this is solid, but again, if you're like me and you find it difficult to shoot the trigger as fast as you possibly can while also keeping your mouse on target, this probably isn't going to be for you, because in addition to being a semi-auto weapon, if you try and spam it as quickly as you can, it's also going to have like a recoil pattern, and it does have a good bit of visual recoil on it as well. So I think that this is good. but I don't think it's going to be for everyone. Like, it can definitely pack a serious punch if you're using it well, if you're aiming for the headshots. But if you're not, and you don't really know what you're doing, and you're just trying to spam this as quickly as possible so that you kill your opponent before they kill you, this probably isn't going to be the right weapon. The bullets bounce all over the place if I'm spamming that fire rate, and if I'm not aiming for the headshot, it's really not going to be that good. But if you can aim it, it is going to be good. So I'm going to put it into B tier, because I think that it is good. I think you definitely can make this thing work, but I'm fully aware that it's not going to be for everyone. I myself don't particularly like the semi-auto. I'd much rather have the full auto stuff. So for that reason, it's going to go into B, and I'm probably going to put it first in B. Actually, you know what? The revolver is a pretty powerful weapon, so I'm going to put it second in B behind the revolver and the Hornet. This is also, again, fairly cheap, 2,500. So it is fairly relatively cheap, and it's a pretty solid kit, but again, not for everyone. Then we have the kits that pair with the Crusader. So Berserker, RP3, the Blackout, and the M6 Reaver, all with the Crusader. And these two are actually the same price, which is kind of interesting. The Blackout and the M6 Reaver are both the same when paired with the Crusader. But the Berserker and the Crusader are slightly cheaper. So this is the Berserker, and it packs a serious punch, and the recoil for the first good few shots is really not that hard to control at all. 75 damage to the head, 45 to the body, and 37 is pretty solid, and it has a pretty high fire rate as well, so you can really just delete people very, very quickly. And if there's like multiple opponents kind of behind each other, you can take them out real quick with this thing. Obviously, if you hold it down too long, you are going to want to learn the recoil pattern, otherwise it's going to, you know, be bouncing all over the place. But if you do learn it, or if you just fire the first few shots and just bring your mouse down, this is going to be a pretty solid weapon. It's very, very, very good. Obviously, it is a little bit pricier, but this is going to be pretty solid. And then the Crusader itself is a very solid weapon as well. Recoil pattern isn't so hard. It kind of snakes up a little bit, but it's not too complicated. Again, if you just bring your mouse down, you can control it for the most part. Nice mag size, nice reload speed, and it does also have a nice damage. Yeah, it has nice damage too, especially if you're hitting those headshots. With anything, hitting the headshots is going to be good, or for most things anyway. So yeah, this is kind of tricksy now, because everything in these kits are all full auto, so I guess I should talk about the benefits of each of these. So the Berserker is LMG, high fire rate, high mag size. You have a slower run speed than... Oh, it's actually the same run speed as the M6 Reaver. That's interesting. So yeah, I mean, this is just a very, 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 very decent weapon. And it's pretty, you know, it's a little bit expensive, but it's very, very solid. I'd say if you're buying this, you're gonna get your money's worth. If you maybe don't have the best aim, or if you're really good at aiming, and you think that there are gonna be lots of opponents in the same place, and you just want to be able to spam them with bullets, this is definitely gonna be for you. So if maybe the opponents have all been kind of huddling up together in the same area before, because maybe your team doesn't have many AoE abilities or something, this is probably going to be for you, because it's going to allow you to take out lots of people without having to reload. So that's going to be the main benefit of this weapon. Then for the Blackout, this is what this is going to look like. So it's a really, 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 really nice recoil pattern. So if you have trouble aiming, and you just want the bullets to go where you're aiming, and you don't really want to think about a recoil pattern or anything like that, this is going to be for you. It's very, 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 very solid, and obviously it's also paired with the Crusader, so there's not much else to talk about that there. So yeah, this is very, very, very good. It doesn't have as much of a mag size as the Berserker does, as the LMG I was talking about a second ago, but it's very, very accurate. This weapon is extraordinarily easy to control, and because of that, I think I'm going to put this into A. So the Berserker, I think I'm going to put into A as well. I think it's a very solid weapon, but the Blackout, which is here, I'm going to put ahead of that one. And I'm going to leave the M9 Fury with the M49 rather Fury with the Cyclone first in A, because generally that's what I find myself using the most. If you like win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game, this is generally what I find myself using, because that's like around how much cash I have to buy that. So it's just like the most common thing, and I feel like if you're not making much money, if you're not winning, 8 games in a row, the M49 Fury and the Cyclone are probably going to be your friend. And then we come to the M6 Reaver, high caliber AR with slow rate of fire. And the recoil for this thing does kick up pretty quickly. So this is kind of going to be the opposite of the previous weapon, the Blackout, actually. If you know the recoil pattern, if you know how to aim for those headshots, this is going to absolutely delete people. So if you can control the recoil, if you can aim for the headshots, and you can do that consistently, this gun is going to be your BFF. This is going to be what you want to use against people. But if you're not that good, if you have trouble, you know, aiming, if you have trouble with the recoil patterns, or you just don't really want to learn it, this probably isn't going to be for you unless you're at a very, very close range. But this thing packs a real punch. It's very scary to play against. No damage drop-off either, so it's always the same amount of damage. And if you just headshot someone once and they don't have the good body armor, they're just going to die, but if they do, they won't. But this is a very, very powerful weapon. And because it's very good, right? It does a lot of damage, but it really does have a good bit of recoil. Yeah, I mean, it has a good bit of recoil on it. So for that reason, I don't want to put it into B, though, because I feel like it is good. Unless you're very good, unless you're very, very, very good, and you really know what you're doing, I think it's going to be better to use the Blackout with the Crusader, because that's a much, much, much easier weapon to use. And if you're hitting more shots, then you're going to kill the opponent faster than if you're not hitting more shots, right? So, for that reason, I think I'm going to put the M6 Reaver first in B. No, I'm not. I'm going to put it in A, but it's just going to go last in A because it is much harder to control than the LMG or the Blackout, at least for me. So I'm going to put it in A, but I am going to put it last in A right now because I do think it's the hardest to control. So that's where that's going to sit. Then, we have the Prototype OP, the Sniper Rifle. It's 255 damage to the head, 150 to the body, and 124 to the legs. Armor provides 50 armor, so this is going to kill anyone that you shoot in the body, no matter what, as far as I'm aware, anyway. So, yeah, again, the snipers are gimmicky in that you have to be standing still, otherwise they're really not going to be accurate at all. Like, if I aim at this wall and I'm moving, the bullet, you know, kind of goes where I'm aiming, but not really. And if they're at a longer range, it's not going to work out like that. Like, I'm going to try and hit this target, and I don't think it even hit it there. I think it went somewhere past the target. So if you're moving with a sniper, you do have lots and lots of bloom, so you do have to be standing still. And for that reason, because everything is kind of gimmicky for this class, for this kit, I mean, because everything is obviously paired with the Prototype OP is what I mean there. So all of these weapons here are going to be using the sniper. And because of that, because everything is going to be kind of gimmicky, I don't think this is going to be fantastic. But if you can aim this, and if you don't mind, you know, not being able to move really, then this is a very, very, very powerful weapon, because obviously if you can just get the dot in the right place, it's just going to one-shot someone every single time, which obviously makes it very powerful. However, it's gimmicky, and all of this stuff costs a lot. And also, your secondary weapon isn't very good for either the SMG, which costs 5,900, or the M18 Drummer, which costs 6,100. So for 5,900, you get a gimmicky sniper and like a subpar SMG that has a lot of recoil on it. And I don't think that that's fantastic. I don't think that this is very good. Oh, I'm just now seeing you've got like a little, like the scope on the actual gun shows you where you're going to be aiming. That's cool. I like that. I didn't notice that before. You learn something new every day. But yeah, Prototype OP plus Whisper, I think is going to go into B tier. Just because the SMG isn't fantastic and the sniper itself is pretty gimmicky. So I'm going to put it into B. And also it's expensive, right? So I would much rather just have like the M6 Revo or the Blackout and use that than I would have this. If you can aim it, it's going to be very, very good. It's going to be super deadly, but it is gimmicky, it is expensive, and it is hard to use. So for all of those reasons, I'm going to put it into B. And it's going to go last in B as well, just because I think the pairing with the SMG just makes it pretty hard to utilize, because it's not a fantastic SMG, and it's a gimmicky sniper. This is going to be the same for the shotgun. Back to the M18 Drummer. This is the full auto shotgun I talked about earlier. And you know what I'm going to say at this point. I really don't like the shotguns in this game. It's really just not going to provide a whole lot. And unless you have both of your Spectres in the same place, which probably isn't ideal, especially if you're defending, this having the shotgun and the sniper is going to be a pretty awkward pairing, because, you know, if someone's long range, that's when you want the sniper, but maybe it's on your other Spectre, and if someone's close, that's when you want the shotgun, but, you know, maybe the sniper is your other Spectre and you don't have the shotgun right now, or whatever. So for that reason, again, we're going to have a C tier. I am going to put this first in C because the sniper is very, very, very good. So it is going to go first in C. It's just not that versatile. It's very expensive. It's very hard to use. Shotguns aren't that good. So that's going to go into C. And lastly, last but not least, actually it's not last because I have the sidearms as well. Maybe I'll just quickly do that at the end. So lastly, Blackout and Prototype OP. Blackout, I like this weapon a lot. Very, 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 very accurate. So I feel like that this is much better than the other two, but it's also much more expensive. So the first one is 5,900, then 6,100, then this is 7,200. So this is very, 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 very expensive to be buying. So unless it's like the final round or something, I just wouldn't be buying this. Like, let's say you're 7-0 up, and for the final round you want to just have some fun, try out the sniper, I think that's fine. But if it's like 7-7 and it's the final round, I wouldn't go for this. I would go with something else, because again, I just think that the sniper is really hard to use, especially if you're attacking, and unless you really know what you're doing, unless you're really, really accurate, it's just not going to be ideal for everyone. And for that reason, this is also going to go into B, I would say. And it's going to go in B instead of C, like the last one, because this is like a very, very good secondary weapon to Blackout, or just a primary weapon to have on your other Spectre. This is a very, very accurate weapon. I like it a lot. So I'm going to put this into B. I think I'm going to put this first in B, because, you know, some people like the sniper. So the one with the shotgun is C, one with the Blackout is B, and then the one with the SMG is also in B, but it's last in B. So I think this is a pretty solid tier list. I think that would be fair, I would say. And this is not going to be for everyone. This isn't like a pro player tier list, right? Because obviously if it were a pro player tier list where you hit every single shot as a headshot, everything using the sniper would be like S tier. Everything using like the M6 Reaver, I think, would be like S tier, and all of that kind of stuff. This burst rifle might honestly be S tier as well for, you know, like pro players and stuff. But this isn't a tier list for pro players. This is like a tier list for like your average Joe, right? So yeah, I feel like I've represented that kind of well. And then also quickly for the sidearms, M2 Carbon, obviously not great. You're going to start off with this, obviously not a fantastic weapon. It's okay, you know, it's an okay weapon, but it's not fantastic. It's going to be better to have the Shiv, which is a different semi-auto pistol. M10 Brat is definitely pretty okay. I normally use this in the starting round. You just have to make sure you don't fire when they're not there. You don't like try pre-fire the corner if you get the audio or anything like that. This is very solid. I would probably put this in B tier. I'd say I'd put it like low B tier. That's where this would go. As for the Shiv, I really have trouble aiming with semi-auto weapons. So for that reason, I would probably put this into C. It is just going to be a little bit harder to use, and you do have to hit a good few shots as well to kill someone if you're not hitting them in the head. So I would classify this as like another weapon that's pretty hard to use unless you're really, really, really good, like the sniper. So I would probably put this into low B, I would say, or maybe very high C. Probably low B is where I put this, because it is pretty difficult to use. And then the... Did I say where I put the Brat? I think I would put the Brat very low A or high B. I think this is definitely a solid weapon, and also it's very cheap. This only costs 400, whereas this one using the RX6 costs 800. So if you buy this at the start of the round, you can also buy the body armor, usually if you've got 800 to start off with. But if you don't buy the armor, then if you buy this one, then you can't buy the armor. But saying that, the RX6 is very, very, very good. It's like, if you can aim your shots, it's going to be pretty powerful. So I actually prefer the M10 Brat. I usually buy this in like an ability, or buy this in some armor to start off with. But the Duster RX6 on the Shiv is also going to be pretty solid. I really don't like the Shiv. I find it really hard to aim. You're going to be better off using this if you can really aim for those headshots. And if not, I would just try and make the most out of my secondary weapon, and then try and, if I can kill someone with the Shiv, then I would try and like pick up their weapon and hope it was like a full auto, or like the Duster itself or something. So, just to recap on that, I think this would go high A, or, low A or high B, and I think this one would go probably low A. I would probably put this in low A, or low A or high B, because, you know, RX-6 and M10 Brat are both pretty good, and I just really don't like the Shiv that much. And that's just my thoughts on it. So, yeah, there you go. But I believe that is all of the different weapons. And by the way, just to say, I would rather have, you know, like a slightly worse weapon, but all of my abilities and some armor, than I would have a really good weapon. So if this is 4100, and maybe I can buy the machine gun instead, the M49 Fury and the Cyclone, I would go for the M49 Fury and the Cyclone instead of the M6 Reaver and the Crusader. Because let's say I only have 4,100 and I can only buy one or the other. I would rather buy this and then also buy this for 900 and then buy like my two abilities for like 2, 4, 6, 800. And I would rather have all of those because both of these can still kill people real quick. And like you also have all of your abilities, so you're probably gonna be able to do more in the fight. So that's just one last thing to say as well, just like a little tip. Don't always go for the best weapon. Just go with what you're like, what you like and what you used to. It's also gonna be pretty important in these fights. But yeah, there you go. There's my tier list. Here it is. I'll show it one last time. There's the tier list. So yeah, there you go. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. That is going to be it for this video. If you liked it, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Farewell.